All right. So, yeah, a lot of things coming down the pipeline. A lot of things. A tipping point is when society and the system is so fed up with a certain outcome that a revolution happens, a revolt. And it hasn't come to that yet within certain medical industries. It hasn't come to that yet. Eventually it will, and it will be channeled through the legal system and also through public opinion. The system is not going to let you go out there and harm people, but we know how shit goes when people have a thought in their mind. You saw what happened January 6th, right? They went and did whatever they did, and the system had to come down on them for being vigilante. So you can't be a vigilante. So the system will channel the frustration. They will channel the need for justice through the justice system. That's why we have the justice system. So we don't have people with scythes and swords going and doing the shit they did back in the 1600s, 1500s. And so there'll be a lot of rhetoric. There'll be a lot of people being put on trial. There'll be even those who'll be sacrificed, those in the medical industry. See, it wasn't just the family. The originals and the Vampire Diaries and Twilight were representing. It was also those who promoted a belief system because they had licenses, because they had years of experience in industries that are accepted and were accepted. And so what the system used for good at one point, when the climate changes, the system will also scapegoat until people figure out either they get out or they die for the cause. And that could be on both sides of the argument. People dying for causes all the time. So it's like, oh God, it's so freaking crazy. And I feel actually really good today. I feel strong in my arms. I feel strong in the mind. I slept very well. No crazy dreams. I drank my coffee this morning. Didn't release too many demons. I mean, released a few, but nothing astronomical. And wow, I feel extremely strong. But I was looking outside, and it was all wet. There's a lot of condensation, so it's very humid outside, and it's very cool in my house. And so the temperatures are going on right now, the extreme heat. And even though it's not abnormal that we have heat, what's abnormal is how early we are having such aggressive heat. Because the heat we're experiencing right now in Ohio would be something that we probably experience in August, September, during hurricane season. Oh no, we are dealing with this crazy heat right now in June. And so that's going to contribute not only to all the crazy hurricanes and tornadoes and storms like I was hearing last night, but also the died suddenlies, because the jump in temperature that's so aggressive, even in the West, people don't even know how bad it is. They're hiking in freaking Arizona, hiking in Sedona. How do you hike in California or even in Arizona during this time right now, even though historically the last how many years it wasn't so hot right now in June, but it's so hot right now. And they kept saying we're in a really high heat index, high humidity, high heat index. Barometric pressure is dropping and rising so aggressively that these kids and elderly and immunocompromised are not getting ahead of the situation. And so you're seeing a lot more died suddenly. A lot more died suddenly. And I figured out that the Middle Ages was that turning point of the population boom. That, yeah, you had the dynasties, the lords and the kings and whatever, and vassals, well, I don't know if vassals, but the lords and the kings were the ones that had the big families, and those who were the peasants maybe had one or two kids, if that. And so when Edward Jenner developed the smallpox vaccine in 1796, that then led to the turning point of the population boom, and then they had to develop an infrastructure and a society to handle that. And so you had so many diverse people who had such large families. And so yeah, in the rich dynasty families, yeah, they had 8 to 10 children because they had to keep the wealth in the family and carry on the genetic line. Yes, keep the wealth in the family, successor to the fortune. And then of course, maybe about 100, 200 years ago, like the Dust Bowl and all that, and they had the farms, you had to have a big family. So you had working, you had farm hands, which would be your sons and daughters. And then the system then perfected and figured out nature and nurture, fertility plus then the programming through academics and all that. And so that's how they were able to foster the strengths and like looking for the pearls in the clams, looking for the diamonds in the rough to develop whatever the system's intentions were. And so I figured out that, yeah, the microbes, we're in a microbial war. Yes, the war is a representation of the microbial war, like the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, all the different wars that we've studied in school, but we're in a microbial war. And I figured out even too, that even if my dog did survive, let's say she didn't get any of the surgeries. Okay, she didn't get any of the surgeries. And she survived those seizures and whatever else that she was dealing with, she would still be under attack because my microbes are so powerful. Like humans, unless like you're a small child and you're next to a huge Great Dane, the Great Dane would be stronger than that small child, especially if that child is immunocompromised. And so you're in a microbial war, survival of the fittest, Darwinism. And that's why in the 1800s, they had the fairs of all the babies in the tents, in the incubators, because they were now studying humans and studying the microbes and pitting microbes and humans against each other. And the war of ideology, the war of biology, the war of everything. The war of politics, religion, and science. And so, you're either a soldier or an innovator. And then you could be both. I gotta pee. Dang it. I'm drinking coffee and I'm drinking water too. But yeah, you could be a soldier or an innovator. And if you were lucky enough to be born in a family or trained in a family that was both innovator and a soldier, if you survived each one of those, you can go back and forth. I wouldn't want to be a soldier now. I'm glad I was a soldier first. And then I survived being a soldier for the system and then became an innovator and had to survive innovating in a society that was full of soldiers. Because innovation means you're going to question the current status quo. And when you're questioning the current status quo, people around you are going to be like, I'm a soldier of fortune. I'm a soldier for my lifestyle, my belief system. And it's like a fight. And it is a fight. It's a fight of ideology. It's a fight of beliefs. It's a fight for everything. And that's, and that's not easy for someone to jockey between being a soldier and an innovator. And so I was one of the lucky ones. Now, other people are going to be a soldier for the system. They're in academics, they're in the actual military, or they're in their politics, they're in religions and their science dogmas, and they also have big families. And they're fighting for their family, they're fighting for their politics, their religion, their science, and innovation's out the fucking window. There is no innovation when you're a soldier of fortune. What are soldiers of fortune? Well, mercenaries. Because your family was developed through the fertility treatments from way back when called the public health therapies that developed such diversity. And then all the wars developed more diversity because then we had Americans going into Europe, Americans going to different places, mixing in with the indigenous populations. And that's why you don't go into indigenous populations, because your microbes, which are stronger than some of these tribes in the middle of the Atlantic, would destroy them, annihilate them. That's the whole thing about microbes. And so with me, with my husband's strong, physically strong, which means I have to then match his physical strength on some level immunologically. It doesn't mean I'm going to be as big as him or as tall as him or, as a way that, the same, but we are wearing the same size shorts. Like I wear a size large. I'm not a fat person per se, but I am bigger boned. I'm bigger in a lot of things. And him and I wear the same size shorts. I mean, his jeans are a little bit bigger and they would fall off me, but I still fit them better than what I used to fit. Okay, so I have to physically match with my husband to survive him. And then intellectually, I hope that maybe some of my information will rub off. But when I had my dog, yeah, she would not be able to survive the microbes, because how influential this environment is, the strongest microbe is going to annihilate. And when you are in a war of biology and a war of ideology and all that, you got to know when to fight the battles and when to go to your prospective places, your corners, and choose your battles. Okay? And so it is a civilized war when you can talk out what you need to do to save yourself. And that's the most important thing about when you get into any kind of relationship with anyone. You've got to have the gift of communication. Because people's reactions are so easily to come by. People react based upon their frustration and triggers. But it is how you communicate why it is you have to change, and why it is some people have to stay the same until they can't stay the same anymore. And then the system forces them to change, and they may not survive the changes. And so that's why I understand now that if people supported somebody through their partying lifestyle and they were smoking and drinking and doing drugs, and now they have cancer disease and chronic illness, and they still want to smoke, drink, and do drugs in a minimal basis, you can't take that away from them. Or they have a suffering, no different than forcing someone to stay the same and suffer. And so I understand both sides of it, okay? Because I've experienced it, I've had to change. And it kind of throws people for a loop, because they're like, well, why don't you go out and hang out? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Because first of all, it's so fucking aggressive out there. And then, the weather is so oppressive. It's so bad that I don't want to put myself in that position of breaking down and waking up another fucking colony that I have to deal with. I'd rather do it progressively through the system changing. And so explaining that is very difficult to those who want somebody to stay the same. So the fact that you have to fight to change and do things to save yourself, that requires communication skills. Because those that don't want to ever change, they'll stay the same, and that's fine. And you can't require them to change either. And that's fine. If they're happy with the way they are, then you don't want to get in the way of that, because that's what makes them happy, and you don't want to make anyone suffer. It's those that cannot handle the suffer of change, regardless of which side are you on. It's when the system has to do then another great reset. And that's, the die suddenly world. And so we were born from all of that diversity through the therapies and the wars and everything else. And the system pulled out the gems and the diamonds and the pearls of our society. And now we have so much redundancy and so many people who've been procreated so much on a weak immune system that they don't have, first of all, they don't have the capacity to assimilate to the population. And maybe they're in such deficit that they become criminals and predators, and so then they're contributing nothing, and they're having a bunch of kids who contribute nothing to society. And so what does the system do? They have to regulate that. And so we are in that regulation process. So we had the population boom from the Middle Ages all the way up to this point, and now we're going to have a population bust. Now you can break it down to generations. Baby boomers, population boom, and then Gen X, population bust. But on a larger global sense, the Middle Ages And when the first vaccine was administered, that was the population boom. And then all the wars and everything else in between. And then now we are in population bust. And everyone is going to look for a scapegoat. And so if you were in the medical holistic energy healing world and you contributed to take away people's suffering in a lower frequency environment, you were hailed as a hero and a guru and someone to bow down to. But now during this climate change, all those, people in the medical holistic energy healing world or whatever, especially those who administered public health therapy, especially now with the perception of that's the sole thing of why we're in this depopulation, well, they're going to have to figure out how they're going to come to terms with their participation in this and whether or not they want to be a target to someone's hate and scapegoatism. And maybe, realize that the medical holistic system was fine before aggressive climate change, but now maybe it's lost its luster. Maybe now it's contributing to the acceleration. But the system will also give people an avenue to get their justice. And it would be, yes, lawsuits, money, having a scapegoat. And so you may have a public scapegoat like Dr. Fauci and all of his cohorts. And then you also have the people who be like, oh, you're in the medical system? Oh, you've administered those? You're a nurse, you're a doctor, and you did this, and you recommended this? And I said this a couple of years ago that at some point, and I don't know when, people were going to find their scapegoat. But the catalyst wasn't there yet. Well, the catalyst is happening. We're having these kids dying suddenly, perfectly healthy kid. You see some of the mainstreamers call it SIDS. Yeah, sudden infant death, sudden adult death. It's from all the different fertility. And it doesn't matter what it is. It's all the different fertility treatments in the medical holistic energy healing world. And so when you have all these fertility treatments causing life and then also having to control it through oncology, then you're like, well, who the hell is to blame? You have the oncology destroying life and you have all the fertility activating life and even becoming an aggressive life like disease. How do you know what to blame, who to blame? And so then, the system has to kind of play that very carefully because it's still a balance, plus and minus, still a balance. And you still can't take a side. You can understand what's going on and save yourself. Can't save anyone else, but somebody is going to be looking for a scapegoat. And I wouldn't want to be in that position of somebody targeting you as a scapegoat. Believe me, they went after me when I was waking up people's immune systems and said I was the demon from hell. And I wouldn't argue with them from that point of view back then because people were not prepared to deal with the demons they had within. Because you hold the demons within. And then also you compound it with all the remedies and the surgeries and everything else. But people hold the demons within, and there's so many triggers in the environment to wake them up. And people don't want to feel them. They want to put them to sleep all the time and then deal with them when they really can't anymore. And so now with this climate change, and then we have an actual formalized system of blame, which is what you're seeing in the anti-V and the pro-V world. Then the system is going to play both sides. And you're going to watch that happen. And so, when people leave the medical industry and there's nobody in the medical industry, well, people who are suffering and dying, well, they're going to die anyways. But you thought your part in it was going to make it better or save them from something. And that was a fallacy. That was the illusion. Everyone in the medical holistic system is living under an illusion they can save their friends and family from whatever. And there was never a time where you could save anyone from anything. It was all a fallacy. What is it? The preparation, prevention, and protection was all a fallacy. Because there's no way you can protect someone from their personal lifestyle and belief system and habits. And you can't make them eat food and you can't make them feel pain and suffering. You can't sell that. And you take away the pain and suffering and then you become a part of someone's premature death and then you make them suffer. Well, that's not good. And it also could cause premature death. So then you can't be the one to determine if someone should have the pain be gone or be dealing with pain. So then you got to walk away from the war. And when you're in the medical system, taking away people's pain and also inducing it and causing it, then no matter which side you go, you're not going to fucking win. Those in the medical holistic system they are going to be the targets for the blame. because you can't win. Fertility, you can't win, and also taking away someone's pain, you can't win. And that's a fucked up place to be in. That's why I would get out of those industries and get out of that ideology that you have the power to take away people's pain, or you have the power to give life to somebody or something. Because if you're giving life to someone, that could be cancer. And if you take away someone's pain, you could take away their life. You're kind of fucked. You're kind of fucked. So if I was in the medical system, I'd get the fuck out. But you know how people are. They're making money. Money is what keeps people following orders. What do you think soldiers do when they're mercenaries for the system and they're getting paid millions of dollars to be whatever? It's the money is what keeps them doing what they do, keeps them following orders. And when people are all about money and social capital and fame and fortune, they'll do whatever it is to make that money. And it doesn't matter if it's going against life or whatever. It's just, and sometimes death supports the life. And then, people have to figure out where they are on each side of those spectrums. And again, you can't determine what is appropriate for somebody else. And so, so eventually, even the animals won't be pets in the future unless we get down to 500 million. And we're not even nearly there yet, because Africa is like billions of people. When they get down to a manageable number and the West gets down to a manageable number, then the system will figure out how people can have pets without the people destroying the pets, and how they can help the pets stay alive despite the attacks of the immune system from their owners. And we have to stop having owners who just take on these pets that they have no intention of keeping alive. It's just something temporarily because they're temporary. And that's kind of a shitty system to be in, is a temporary, disposable system, because that means animals are disposable, children are disposable, everyone's disposable, and life is disposable, and then it becomes predatory and destructive. And so when we finally do reach a sustainable system, then the system will figure out how to prolong and even literally immortalize pets and humans, and the food supply will be on point. The living conditions will be on point. The weather will be on point, but we're not there yet. And it's going to be we're far away from that, because even by 2030, that's still too soon for the utopian society. I would say by 2050, maybe by 3000 or 3000, that's too much. I always want to skip by 2100, by 2100, 2200, who knows? We might have a utopian society. But right now, we're going to watch the fall of society. And it will be funneled through the medical, holistic, energy healing world. It will be funneled through the politics, religion, and science. You're going to have your scapegoats. You're going to have the circus of those who want to blame this person or that person. And if you are, again, in the medical, holistic system, and you want to have a big family, you're going to be subject to this, because already when you have a big family, you're going to be taking part in the medical holistic system. And if you're in the medical holistic system, you're taking away life and also developing life. And who knows if that life is going to be good for the person. It could be cancer, disease, and chronic illness, or you could be an oncologist and take away someone's life to the point where they're dead. And you're seeing that in the diet other groups where they're blaming the oncologist. And I get it. Believe me, I have no argument with anyone that has an issue with those who give life and those who take away life. And so then when you realize that no matter what side you're on as far as the medical holistic system, you can't win. You will never fucking win. You will not win, because the system will flip on you just like that. And so that's why the whole J world is about stepping out of the war, feeding yourself, changing the way you do things, and assimilating, eating all food, and not advocating everyone have fucking family and children and all this other stuff, because they may not survive the new world, if at all. And my world is not easy. Oh, it's fucking painful. It is painful. And everybody can do it. Because not only do you have to be a soldier for yourself, but you have to also be a soldier for the system without taking part in taking away people's pain or giving them pain. And you literally have to fight for yourself, and also be an innovator for yourself. And if you're not well versed in history and in the present and what they're going towards the future, then you will be a mercenary, a soldier for the system, and you'll die for your beliefs. And I gotta pee again. Holy crap! Oh my God. I'm not drinking that much water, but geez. Maybe it's all the coffee, maybe? And so also possession. Yes, possession is real. And so I posted that post from creepy website, whatever, and it shows the shadow of this behind a lady. And the last few weeks, going through this major energy conversion, waking up demons and all that other crap, when I felt some weird crap when I was in Walmart and all that, oh yeah, possession is real. The dead are out there waiting to inhabit some of these bodies. And that is the cancer, disease, and chronic illness. And also your friends and family's microbes are also influencing that and trying to take over, as well as your animals and your children and everything else in society. And so the living and the dead are also cannibalizing the people who don't have what it takes to deal with fighting for their own life. And people are falling apart. And they're having a lot of mental breakdowns, physical breakdowns. And so the feelings that I felt the last couple of weeks of fear and anxiety, yeah. Because I was going through an energy conversion and I knew the dead was near. They're waiting for me to freaking die overnight. And that's what people are faced with too. That's why people die in the middle of the night or die in their sleep, because they couldn't handle the battle at night. And I'm telling you, I've had some crazy ass dreams. Some reoccurring dreams of being left somewhere. It's always like in China. I lost my keys or lost this, but this last time that I felt like I was lost and lost my keys and my phone and everything else, I was in California. But that was kind of weird. But just some weird ass dreams. To some that I would wake up coughing, choking on my own mucus, which means my immune system was working for me while I was sleeping, because I conditioned it when I was awake to make sure it released demons and eat all food. So that way when I'm sleeping, the immune system is equipped to deal with the dead world. And that's the world that people are not surviving. That's why they die in their sleep. Again, that's why they have heart attacks and strokes in their sleep. Because the dead world are also just as active when you're sleeping. And when you're awake, you have the time, supposedly, if you're not so distracted with everything else, to reinforce your immune system and your body and condition your blood vessels and your heart and your arteries and everything to handle immune system activation, the heart palpitations, which is basically a sensing of the disturbance in the force. Dark forces are gathering. And so when I would feel the tachycardia and the heart palpitations and the extreme hunger and all the sneezes, I knew that my body was going through a battle, that I had to support it with food, rest, release. I wasn't out there playing games with people, because I knew I was in the battle of my life. And then also the people and Walmart and all these different places would trigger the things to wake up, the hatchlings to wake up. Those are the spirits that were laying dormant that people wake up to and some don't survive. And they're also taking on those demons as well through marriage and relationship and fertility treatments, as well as the public health therapies and all the surgeries and oncology and the pills, power supplements and detoxes and all that stuff. And so, yeah, so it's not a surprise that I felt the dark forces gathering, and I was in the battle of my life. And so my arm was in pain because of lymph nodes and all that, a little bit of the tachycardia, and then you saw the circles under my eyes. It was like, you don't see them now, maybe a little bit, but not too much. But it's a battle. When you're fighting a battle, you got to fight on your own. There's nobody can fight these battles for you. And the more you get the medical treatments and the diets and all the different supplements and detox and everything else, the more you compound the issues and you actually make the forces, the dark forces inside and out there stronger. And that's why some people are, they are getting antagonized by spirits because of their holding on to spirits within, allowing them to antagonize them, but also the dark forces are gathering and they're becoming stronger in this environment. And it's crazy. It's like the Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like The Conjuring, Insidious, the Nun, and all of these different horror movies that we have come to know in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, and even today, the dark forces are gathering. And people are not surviving the dark forces at night and even during the day, because there's stupid people out there doing stupid shit out there, and people get caught in the crossfire. And the people at night, they don't survive the night because they have not given their body enough strength to be able to expand and contract during climate change, and then also when they have to release another demon that wakes up, a hatchling that wakes up, like the spiders. Okay, so it's a little flippin' crazy out there. And I want to open up the door. But yeah, I sense a lot of stuff that goes on. And it's a little crazy. And people will be like, oh, I don't believe in ghosts, Jillian. Yeah, okay. That's fine. Okay, and so when I said maybe the future of pets will be over because inevitably they will develop antibodies and have to succumb to eventual death because you are in a fight to the death when two diverse life forms get together and share space and share microbes. Okay, so you can imagine people have so many animals and so many children, so many friends and family that they're surrounded by. Those microbes, you're all in a war, a fight to the death. You are in the battle of your life right now. And people are managing that battle through medical, holistic energy healing world, but eventually you will succumb to the war because your defenses are compromised. Not only are you not eating all the food in the food supply that you need to, milk, meat, cheese, and eggs, and everything else, but people are disabling their 11 different systems, getting the operations, causing trauma to themselves. They're vasoconstricting or vasodilating, things like forcing their body to promote or develop hormones that it wasn't conditioned to do. And then it taxes the immune system, it taxes the 11 different systems, and then there is breakage called the rupture. Okay? And so everything is a conditioning. And so, yeah, I'm not going to read everything word for word, but I will say that, I'll paraphrase. But yeah, I feel the forces in my hands. My body is pushing stuff through. I feel the energy. People say, oh, you have arthritis. No, this is the pain of life. This is what people don't realize that they have to endure, is the pain of life. And if they can't endure the pain of life, then they will have to take their medications to stop them from feeling stuff until their body breaks down. And so, yeah, it's like a possession of sorts. And I remember a couple of years ago when my husband was putting that lamp in, and I was characterizing the feeling that I felt when a hatchling hatched, and I felt a radiated energy, a surge of energy, and then I had to poop. But I felt dizzy, I felt all these weird things. And I'm like, oh my God, my husband opened a portal, which it may have been. Maybe there was a spirit there that was so influential. And then I had already an open immune system because the J world. And so things were allowed to come in, just like information is allowed to come in, like I'm taking in new information. But I also had to fight the battle of that entity. And so that's when my immune system activated and shit out whatever it was. I had to shit out, and that was kind of a crazy situation. And so, because I remember when my husband passed by the desk that was there, and then, he didn't hit the desk, but then a book fell. And so I know that during that time, there was a lot of, climate change going on, and so much was going on during that time. So yeah, possession is real. It is real. And then what happens is possession can also turn to cancer disease, chronic illness, and also children, and weird behaviors, and some other things that you hope you don't conjure up in someone who has that propensity for violence and death and destruction. Okay? And so that's why you be careful who you get with, because you don't know what's lurking in the hearts of mankind. All right? So remember, the system brought you to life through the VACCINEA, whatever. And then at this point, they have to control life through the oncology at the macro and the micro level. Okay? And sometimes fertility also acts like an oncology because you're developing offspring that will annihilate the predominant host or predominant whatever, and in that war people don't survive it. And that's why people are going to be blaming those in the medical industry for administering those things, because that's a war that people are not surviving. It's the war of developing antibodies, regardless of where. So you gotta be very careful how I phrase this stuff. Okay? And so, so fertility is deadly. Right now it is very deadly. And so oncology can save or destroy, and it's all relative to where you are on that spectrum. And so, yeah, the Civil War in the 1860s was representation of people's immune systems and the families fighting each other, and also freeing the slaves, and sometimes freedom was death. And so Juneteenth, which is today, is a representation of freedom from slavery, and sometimes that is death and destruction. And so saving anything could be at the detriment of you. You could be the sacrifice to save something else. And that's kind of what's going on. Save the children. Okay, so the parents must die. Save the parents, the children must die. I mean, it's crazy. Quantum, what are we in? Microbial quantum apocalypse? Yeah, we're there. Tipping point. All right, so this guy, Joe Lewis, in one of the Die Suddenly groups, he goes, in my opinion, doctors and nurses had to get informed consent from their patients. It was not given. Subsequently, in my opinion, the moment the needle touched the skin's common assault took place. The moment the needle broke the true 7 layers of the skin, assault occasioning bodily harm took place. If someone got seriously injured after the J at B, then negligent act occasioning grievous bodily harm occurred. If someone died, then manslaughter took place. Look up the Queensland Criminal Code Act. Just because the criminals in our government gave them permission to give out the J at B does not mean that criminal liability does not apply. And those politicians that gave this permission are leaving office at the moment. I think justice for the people is coming, and any doctor or nurse that gave this out and knew what they were doing deserves jail and should have all their monies and assets confiscated and distributed to the victims of their crimes. The legislation exists. Justice is coming. Eventually it's going to get to that point, because the justice system is going to be the last say. And that's why we have the rule of law. Not the law of the jungle that will govern the conduct of nations. And so when you're just following orders, that is no excuse. If you don't know the law. And that's what the system set people up for. And if you couldn't understand the other arguments out there and you still kept doing what you're doing because you were getting money for it and somebody else is doing it and your boss told you to do it, is that enough excuse? I mean, look at the Iran-Contra affair. Ollie North. He was just following orders. Okay? Remember the Iran-Contra affair? Remember Ollie North back then? When they made Hollywood into Ollywood? Is just following orders enough of a defense for crimes against humanity? And that's what I need to write down. Is just following orders enough of a defense for crimes against humanity? If new information comes up, one must be incumbent. It is incumbent. It is incumbent upon a person to consider the arguments and question the morality and efficacy of what they are a party to. No one forces you to be in industries, be in questionable industries, such as the medical, holistic, surgical, energy, healing world, And so what is your true incentive taking part in the medical world? It is not helping or saving anyone, because look at the morgue. So you are a mercenary. A mercenary for the system, making money off of the pain and suffering of your fellow man. And if you are trying to take away pain, you are just as culpable of taking life away as well as giving life or disease. To take away the pain. You are essentially trapped. It is time to leave the medical, holistic, energy healing world. You cannot win. The patients, well, it's done for them. Those who are in those making money off of people. See, here's the thing. Is just following orders enough of a defense for crimes against humanity? If new information comes up, it is incumbent upon a person to consider the arguments and question the morality and efficacy of what they're a party to. No one forces you to be in unquestionable industries such as the medical, holistic, energy healing world. And so what is your true incentive taking part in the medical world? It is not helping or saving anyone, because look at the morgue. So you are a mercenary for the system, making money off the pain and suffering of your fellow man. And if you're trying to take away pain, you're just as culpable of taking life away as well as giving life or disease to take away the pain. And so you can't win in the medical, holistic, energy healing. You can't. You won't be able to win. Because eventually, once the medical system goes down, so will the holistic system. And when the holistic system goes down, it's done. Now people are just left to suffer and just take away their pain until there's nothing left. And that's how the system set people up. And so if you're okay with that and you're making money off that, you're going to be like, Jillian, you're stupid. And I get it, that's fine. But there will be a tipping point. And it already is happening. Okay? And so you knew that, so now you know that everything stemmed from the Middle Ages with looking for the innovation and the advancement of humans. And eventually the petri dish has to be cleaned up. And so right now we're in that process. And that's why you're seeing so many died suddenly. Okay? And the system is going to funnel, again, the blame through specific industries that can go through the justice system. And again, when you know, and you've heard that there is, and those inserts will tell you what potentially could happen. That was the loophole. The system can use that against those who administer those therapies, regardless. When that is, and even though you consented to it, that's the thing. If you were, that's the thing. People see what the thing is. If you were told, what's it called? Informed consent. If you were not given informed consent for what it is that you were being given, and you didn't sign a paper that says you knew what the actual outcome would be, that's where the system can get you. If they want to. Remember, it's all selective enforcement. Selective enforcement. And you have to get the signature and consent of the person in sexuality, in medical treatments. And if a pharmacist administers something to you without giving you an informed consent, they're just as culpable. If a nurse gives you something without informed consent, they're just as culpable. Because they didn't give you the warning. You didn't have the back of the bottle. And the system set a lot of people up to fail. And they also gave a channel for the justice system to go through and give justice to the people who are dying for it, literally. Dying for justice. But again, remember, justice is after the fact. What's done is done. Now it's just what is it now? It's closure. And eventually it'll come to a point where there'll be needed closure, and it's coming. And those that were trying to tell their friends, stop doing this, stop whatever, and the friends are like, yeah, fuck you, and you're stupid, and I have the system on my side. Well, the system's going to remember, the winners will be losers, and the losers will be winners. At times, they are fucking changing. So that's all I'm going to say, because there's nothing really left to say at this point, right now. Well, I mean, there's always enough to say, but I feel great. I had to work through that situation, as far as waking up those demons, and I'm on the other side of it. But again, the system had to advance humans. And we know that humans are sorely needing to advance themselves in body, mind, and spirit. And I hope you have the capacity to do that. I hope you're smart enough to get out when you can, or just say, you know what, screw it. The system can only protect you up to a certain point, and then you have to protect yourself. All right, bye.